All right. I figured this was a good story. I've got my one of my drivers here, Greg. Greg, say hello to the crowd.
Hello, crowd.
I wanted to, so Greg and I booked a load a while back that could have turned really disastrous. And let me see if I can find this picture here. I should have been more prepared. I can probably edit this out. Maybe not. Who knows? Oh, I know what to do here. So Greg, why don't you go ahead and tell the story of our glass load out of Waco, Texas?
Well, I was a little nervous about it to begin with because I've got an old Schneider trailer, one of these old spring loader jobs. So I was a little nervous about this load to begin with. When we got there for the pickup, uh, you know, the people had obviously done this many times before, and I saw they were putting in those pillows to keep things stable. So I felt a lot better about the load. And when I left Waco, I was pretty confident that we were going to be able to get it to St. Louis in one piece.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, you
I was,
didn't account for I-35 and US 69, though, right?
yeah, you see, that's the thing about US 69 is that it all came back to me because I hadn't taken that road for a long time. And as I'm riding on it, I'm like, this was not a good idea. And yeah, it hasn't gotten any better since the last time I was on that road.
Yeah, I
That's
think
for
the locals call that the speed bump of many miles.
old Indian adage.
And
Yeah.
it's
So,
true because I remember a couple of friends were running that because we were all heading to Dallas, and they were about a day behind me or ahead of me, I think. And I told them get in the left lane once you pass Big Cabin, and sure enough, they did. And they're cursing, hitting all those bumps. But yeah, US 69 in Oklahoma, same spots open up every year, same time. It's a pretty. If you don't know the road, it could beat you up.
yeah.
So go
Yep.
ahead.
So, getting back to the loading, I had run into an issue when I was still working under Jeff's authority, where we had done a furniture load, and after the fact, there was some damaged equipment, and it took me to heart to make sure that even if you're not allowed on the dock, to at least be comfortable with how they're loading you, before you put that seal on, to at least take a look at it. And that's what I did at this load is that, okay, I'm confident that we can get that we can get these glass bottles in one piece. And when we made it to St. Louis and I opened the door, it's that dreaded the feeling in the gut of your stomach. That's that's the reason why I don't do reefer is because of the fear that I have of having loads rejected. I know that's an irrational fear, but it happens because you have all these things in your trailer and you open that door up and you're like, well, that's not good. I don't know if you can see a picture,
Yeah,
but
there's the
the
picture.
yeah, the pillow on the left deflated on me.
Oh
And
man.
as you can see, that caused, the leaning tower of Pisa right there.
And I might add that Freight Waves, they got this like social media segment, and they just showed a video of a guy, same green bottles as these, opening the door and glass just pouring out, pouring out, pouring out. And I'm just like, wow, we're gonna be the next group of people on Freight Waves.
Yeah, we're going to be
so
famous.
so what happened when you open the doors, you backed up to the dock and they see this? What happens at that point?
Well, it was an open appointment, and third shift had just started. And I backed in the door and walked in there. And the gentleman that was there was, just on his last straw already. This is before he actually opened up the overhead door. You can tell he's already like done with it, and his shift's just starting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, oh, this isn't going to be good.
Yeah.
And so I, just stand there. He doesn't really acknowledge me, and he opens up the overhead door, and he just starts just every profanity in the book. just la, 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 and it was pretty impressive. I had to admit, I was like, oh,
That's
this
funny.
guy's got some talent. And he's like, I'm so sick and tired of this crap, and they don't know what they're doing over there, and it's always falls on me, and I'm done. And then he closed the door, closed the overhead door.
Oh wow.
So here I am just standing there, and I'm really starting to panic at this point because I'm like, okay, well, what happens next, right? And he pretty much just walked off, and one of the other guys in the oh, hold on for 1 second there, Steve. Yep, we're good. Yep. Okay. Sorry, the light just turned red here, so we're getting offloaded. But anyhow, so they pick it up. Okay. Don't go nowhere. All right, I won't. Thank you.
Don't go nowhere.
Don't go nowhere. Don't worry, we're not heading anywhere. So this guy who's obviously the supervisor just storms off into who knows where. Meanwhile, I'm looking at the guy that's actually on the forklift, a young kid, and his eyes are like really wide like this, like, and I'm like, so now what? And he's like, he starts shaking his head. So we pretty much just stood there. I don't know. I'm like, well, is he calling the supervisor? And the guy in the forklift was like, he is the supervisor.
Oh man.
Like, uh-oh. So we just pretty much just stood there. I mean, and that's the moral of the story, right? Because, you know, I only speak to myself here. When I get stressed out, I tend to, you know, lash out, defend myself. It's not my fault, I knew this load was gonna be shit, and start. What am I supposed to? And obviously it's 11 o'clock at night, so we're not gonna start the whole thing with the broker quite yet.
Right.
But that was really the deciding moment on whether or not this was gonna resolve itself, because he was upset, and we stood there, and he ended up coming back, and this is where it came, because he was looking to get a reaction out of me. I could just tell, because he comes back in, he doesn't get in my face, Steve, but he gets close, and he
Right.
says, I am not messing with this. You need to get out of my dock. And so I said, okay. I said, is this happened before? And then that triggered him again for another tirade. This happens all the time, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, okay. And this is the lesson that I learned from my trainer when I first was driving a couple of years ago at Crowd Camp Trucking in Wisconsin, is that you let these guys, they're the alpha male. It is their house that you're invading. You're
Right.
the invader, and they are the king of their domain.
Yep.
And I could just tell that he was trying to get me to say something, so he had an excuse to basically trespass me off the property.
Right.
And I said, okay, in the past when this has happened, what's usually the next step? And he says, I'm not dealing with it. The next shift comes on at 7. So right there, I was like, that was my window. Aha. Okay. So at this point, he's like, okay, the next shift. And I'm like, okay. I said, do you mind? I'm out of hours, which was true.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, am I in your way if I just stay here until my clock resets? And he's like, I don't care what you do. He ran off. And then the forklift guy left. So here I am standing on the dock, and I'm like, well, at least I don't have to move. At least I'm set for the night.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so that's
because moving that truck, that's definitely going to make those fall.
oh man,
I mean,
absolutely.
I'm
Any
surprised you
sort
got
of
that far with it.
yeah, it was a miracle, honestly. It was a miracle that when I opened, like I said, I opened the door, that it wasn't just all on the ground. It was miraculous. So so I averted a catastrophe right there, and you could tell this guy was looking for a reason to just get me off the property.
Right.
But I wouldn't give it to him, even though I felt like it, because I was as stressed out as he was,
Right.
at this point. So we were equally stressed. But that was the lesson I learned is that no matter there's two things, Steve. There's what goes on in here, and then there's what comes out of your mouth, right? So my mind is like, I got all sorts of smart ass shit to say to this guy, stuff to say to this guy,
Right.
right? I mean, I can do some dueling of words,
Uh-huh.
but you stop and you're like, okay, how do you want this to end? Right? I don't want it to end by me being trespassed off the property. I don't want that scenario. So
Right.
I just kept it all in. I mean, I guess that's how people get ulcers. I guess you hold it all in. But in this situation, it was the right move, and he gave me just that little tidbit of info that says, "Well, next shift comes in at 7," and I'm like, "All right." So he got what he wanted, which
Mhm.
he wanted nothing to do with that load,
Right.
and I got what I wanted, which was to at least
Stay
have
in
a
the dock.
chance of them taking care of this problem. And basically, the next morning, the guy was gone, and I'm sleeping, and somebody knocks on my door, and it's you know, big guy who's like, "So you got a problem there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got a big problem." And we found out at the end of the day that this happens all the time, and they had a procedure in place. They had me pull out of the dock and back up to this huge dumpster, and three or four guys. It's like the response team, right, Steve?
Uh.
They climb in the back of my trailer and knock it over, like and everything goes flying. I'm in the truck and I just see all this glass just flying out. And it just falls on the pavement, and they got you know, guys with brooms and a front end loader, and they basically just threw away that entire stack right into
Wow.
the right into the bucket right there. And once that was out of the way, then we backed up into the dock, and I was out of there. They see the it happened around 7 a.m. I was out of there by around 9 o'clock.
Nice.
So
Yeah, I remember that. I had to book it at the last minute because we didn't know whether you're gonna have to go to a dump or go back to the shipper, which trying to take that back all the way to Waco, that would have been yeah, that would have been bad. And so we had to book luckily St. Louis market's pretty good, but and he did lose the load over this.
yes, yep,
So but yeah, so I mean the moral of the story is keep your cool, kill him with kindness, and the problem resolves itself. So you never saw a cargo claim for this or
nope.
any of that. That's
In
good.
fact, they gave me a clean bill of lading, Steve. Not only did I
Oh,
not get a cargo claim, they didn't even mark damaged pallet on the bill of lading. They gave me a
nice.
clean bill of lading. The best possible scenario. I was like, look
Yeah.
at it. Like, really? She's like, yep. I'm like, good.
Was
I'm
there
out the
any
door.
broken glass embedded in your trailer at all?
There was, but we blew it out there, and then I blew it out again before I got my next load. Because of course, Steve, our next load was food grade, right? So
Right. Yeah.
we had to we had to sweep that out pretty good. So I blew it out with I got that little electric a leaf blower, and then I went there with a little tiny broom and got him at
Uh-huh.
all the crevices, because it
Uh-huh.
was green, so it really stood out. So there was a little bit of work there. I'd say about a half hour worth of messing around to get all the little glass
That,
out of there, but
that's a
no
better
worries.
alternative, better than the alternative. What could have happened, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I assumed I'd have to go to some third party place that specializes in this type of thing, and that would have wasted that whole day, you know. And yeah, at the end of the day, it worked out good. And the reason why is because I save it, and that's a little bit of a plug here, Steve. While I got this medium here, is that's one of the many benefits of having a dispatch service, of having a business partner, is that I still had all those feelings, and
Mhm.
that because I had you to bend. I mean, I still had it in there, but
Yeah.
instead of letting the receiving clerk and the receiving manager take it, I was able to release it, on on my business partner over here, my load planner, And you got to hear it, didn't you? I mean, I
Yeah.
was not happy.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I try to take pride in listening to the drivers, and and I'm still a driver myself for the most part, and I just kind of think of the scenarios where I've got a story where I was at a beverage facility, and one of the drivers I was back next to was bitching at the forklift guys and griping about how bad this place was and all that. And I was super nice to everybody, and I got loaded before he did, and waved at him nicely as I drove out of there. So I mean, it pays to be nice. You don't want people to walk all over you, but you have to learn when to recognize when the customer's testing you. And we get a lot of disrespect out here. When I had a trainee, I would tell him, "So what made you decide to be a truck driver? Because you just turned into a second class citizen."
Yeah.
And that's how we feel sometimes out here. You go to a shipping receiving window and you get ignored. Not even a, "Hey, hold on, I'll be with you in a minute." I remember picking up at a customer there in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and this chick was notoriously rude to us. And they had a big sign saying, "Drivers, do not be rude to us. We are only doing our job." You know, and I literally said, "This goes both ways, right?" She kind of looked at me and she's like, "You're right. I'm sorry," and gave me a smile. So I mean, and then I remember another shipper where I showed up and it had signs saying, "Please knock on the window if we don't see you."
Oh,
And
wow.
I told that gal, I said, it's funny that you have to put a sign up because most of the time it's opposite. She's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, we get yelled at if we acknowledge our existence before you're ready for us." And she just kind of laughed that off. So, finding the right customers. But, I've always said that keeping a calm, cool head is how you're going to survive out there. And you've proven it. You've made this scenario that we're showing a picture of into a positive outcome. No more than 30 minutes worth of extra work. So kudos to you, my friend. That's why I'm happy to have you on my crew, and you were an asset to Like Trucking when you were over here. And if more of us can be professional at times that it really calls for it, I think that's a good lesson for everybody to learn. So, Greg, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you. And for everybody, if you're watching, click like, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and we're gonna have more interviews like this in the future, and there are lessons to be learned from the guys that have lived it. So, with that being said, thanks for watching, and have a good day.
Thanks a lot, Steve.
You're welcome.